right, welcome back, guys. Today, I want to show you how to get motion capture from iClone, including body and face, and even mess around with some of the hand keyframes. I don't have a motion capture glove yet. And bring that over into Source 2 Filmmaker. This is a
In the
pretty tedious
conditions,
process that took me a while to figure
no one
out.
expected you
And
to
definitely
survive.
was not just me that managed to get this done, but this is a part from my a part of my Halo animation that I'm working on, and you can see that there is
Complications.
not bad motion capture here. And the great thing about this is that, as I covered in my last thing on how to actually do this importing, is that you can actually, when you import it correctly, you got like 200 different shape keys that you can like change your character in real time. Wrong character. Like, isn't that, it just looks amazing. So, warning, this whole setup cost a lot of money. All right. Firstly, we got Xsens, and then we got iClone, and then we got these plugins, which I'm going to talk about all this stuff in probably, hopefully, the most simple way I possibly can. There might be some gaps in knowledge that I think YouTube has plenty of tutorials about. So if you don't know how to do something, just remember that. Firstly, we want to be able to sync up our audio, right? So one big thing that I learned was that when I had this character saying something like complications, you being gone for so long has led to complications. That wasn't the exact line, but basically I had that line and I would hit record on this program and then redo it and redo it and redo it. And I got to say, pro tip, go into your editing software and just play the same line over and over and over, and then drop it in to this program here and bring it in looping. And that way you're not like constantly trying to retake the same line. You're just doing the same line over and over without, it just saves a lot of time. So we're going to drop our complications line here. We're going to drop it in as a soundtrack, very important, because if you drop it in as a voice track, it's going to automatically capture the face, right?
But your return.
So we're going to have a little bit of audio that I set up here.
But your return. After all this time has complications.
Okay, so good start, right? We got our audio in here. We want this timeline to be longer because if we don't make it longer, then it's not going to, We want to go up to the project settings over here. You can also access this through this little button. And we're going to change that to like, let's say 15,000. And then this little scrubber right here, we're also going to need to move that. And then we're going to save this as a new file, Gold Brass demo, May 22nd, 2023. Okay, so.
Complications.
Now we got our audio on the timeline. We're scrubbing it. Okay, awesome. Another thing that we need to do is go up to Motion Cloud, and this is a paid plugin as well. We got two things that we really need. If you got gloves, that's awesome, but I do not have gloves. So we're going to need to capture our face in real time and our body in real time. All right? So there's the iPhone 11 or 12. Look it up. I'm not 100% sure which one, but maybe both actually. But just make sure you get the right iPhone. It has red vision or X-ray or something like that on the phone, which is great for motion capture, and it works with the software. So you can also use other things like a webcam. I don't think I really recommend that, honestly, but I use this iPhone because it captures my face and all the geometry of my expressions here. And honestly, when you're filming this, you want to move the headband up if you're using Xsens. So anyway, we're going to capture live face first, right? And you want to make sure that that client code there is the same as what's prompting you right here, your IP. Make sure that your phone and your computer is connected to the same Wi-Fi. Otherwise, you will get an error or a different IP, right? Very important. I'm going to share as many details as I can from things that have frustrated me. So hopefully whoever's watching is interested in doing this, and you guys can take a shortcut just learning from what I've learned myself. So you can create awesome animations in Source 2 or whatever. So now we need to go over to Xsens, right? And this is my body and captured in real time. And we want to go up to something. You need the MVN Animate Pro license, which is unfortunate because it costs a pretty penny, but it's totally worth it, especially if you're doing this kind of stuff. The network streamer options. You actually want to capture or grab the default IP that you have over here on iClone and bring it over into Xsens, which you maybe won't even think of doing that, right? Okay, so now that we have our character selected, we want to make sure that these things are connected to LiveFace and Xsens. And then we're going to click on this little box right here so we bring up this little face area, right? We're going to hit preview. Make sure we're in the beginning of the timeline. Hit preview. I'm going to mute it because there's going to be audio playing. And then hit, oh, okay, my body's not there because I didn't hit Xsens, right? So, okay, so you might notice that my hands are all disconfigured. This is another thing I had to learn the hard way too. Just don't record the hands, okay?
But you'll return.
So if you go over into Xsens here, just unclick the hands. And then there's also a lot of great keyframes that you can use and actually animate in here too. Or you can just paste them all in this file in the beginning of it, and then actually just copy and paste it and manipulate it in Source 2, which is really easy, all right? There is actually a really happy, I'm actually really happy with the hand shot I did here, and I'll show that real quick. I did not hand animate this. I just grabbed the keyframes from iClone, pasted them in the animation, and then messed with them in Source 2. So anyway, back over to iClone. Hit preview, and now we got our guy, okay? So a couple little things are off. I've noticed don't move the feet when animating, otherwise the whole body's gonna
But your
be
return.
And then also we need to do some work here. This is going to be different for everyone, but it's important to do it. Very, very important to do it. Okay, so firstly, you want to set the 0 pose, okay? So just
after all this time has
look where you're normally going to look. Right? I'm going to look straight ahead even though it's not at the camera. This is not the best rig for this, by the way.
But your return.
Set 0 pose.
After all this time has
Actually, I want to move this up a little bit higher.
Complications.
Three, two, okay, so I just set my 0 pose. What that does is it knows what the
after all this
default
time
expression
has
is, so it understands a little bit about my face. And then we also want to go to mapping up here. And then I'm actually going to import something that I've already done. Oh, shoot, was that not the right? That wasn't the right thing. I want to go to Tracking Data Inspector, the second one here next to mapping. I'm going to click on my save file that I've already made. So how you need to calibrate your guy
after all this time
based on your own face. It's going to be different for everyone. The best way, there's a lot of tutorials on how to do this, but I found the most helpful way is to go for extreme expressions, okay? And then figure out how, try to get the character to look like how you do in real life, and try to get it matched up with here. And that includes doing silly faces like,
after all this time
just
has
like really pushing out all your brows, your mouth, and then just turning up or down all these little ticks. You'll see that every time I talk, all these little metrics here move up and down. Like I realized that I never was getting squinting unless I did it extremely like this. So I wanted that to be more sensitive.
After all this time
so I turned up squint. For example, you'll see right here, I turned up squint to 2.9, 2.9. So when I squint, even just a little bit, it really adds a human life feeling to it, right? Okay, so just messing around real quick, you'll see that.
But your return, after all this time has complications.
And at this point, we can record. Right?
But your return, after all this time has...
like I said in the beginning, you want to have audio playing along with your syncing here. So drop it in as a soundtrack, and you'll see what I do here. So it's very helpful to...
But your return.
And my Xsens is a little bit... Oh, shoot. Yeah, don't turn off your iPhone when you do this. Okay.
But your return.
Oh, we want to turn on the audio. That's right. Okay. Okay.
Complications. But your return. After all this time has complications.
Hi, Missy Tate.
But your return. After all this time has complications. But your return. After all this time has complications.
So it's not perfect, and I don't rely on this data completely by just outright. There's a lot of cleanup, just like normal motion capture, right? But the important thing is, for me anyway, is lip syncing. Making sure you get the lip syncing that's not, too crazy, not, underwhelming, and it all syncs with the audio in the end, right? I'm still figuring this out as I go, but I've actually found it useful not to miss with the strength section here. And Reillusion, they made this new feature that was called Blend. I haven't really found this one to be super useful because the lips just kind of move unnaturally. Our lips don't really move in a linear way. They move very erratically when we're talking, especially depending on what you're saying, right? So now we got our motion capture, right? Move that away.
But your return, after all this time, has complication.
Okay, so not bad.
After all this time has complications.
And the great thing about this too is that if you go over here to this this little animation section, you actually have access to this little thing called face key. So you can actually add keyframes of just default like happy or disgust. You can turn this up and down, and whenever you do that, it creates a keyframe down here. I haven't really done this a whole lot, but it could be really great. And another few pro tips that I've learned is really get into that nose scrunching in the eyebrows. When I started doing this, I had a lot of trouble making it look good because my eyebrows and my nose and cheeks weren't very much moving at all. So, you can hand animate that. You can turn the sensitivity way up on the mapping section. But yeah, so at this point, what you want to do, hopefully you're following along. I know it's a lot. But anyway, if you go over to File, Export, and then go to Range, don't do current frame. You'll have issues if you do that. I'm serious. Don't do that. I've got stuck on that for a while. Just leave it default FPS, 60 FPS iClone. Range, we're going to go from 0 to 2500 because that's about what we had. And then I turned the max texture size down to 256 because we're not exporting a character. We're exporting an animation, right? That's what we really want. So, yeah, you can delete all this stuff, but we're going to just name this Gold Brass Demo, okay? And whenever that exports, that's going to be an FBX that we're looking for. So if we go over to our Gold Brass model, very lovely guy, and we can talk about the materials because the materials honestly are tricky and have taken me forever to figure out, and also thanks to MJ at Fluid Script Productions for helping me with this too. Really helps set the foundation, honestly, for all this because it is rather complicated. So if you go to your model doc with your character, I don't import this like how you normally would in Source 1, where you just import an animation laying around somewhere. You got to actually import this as under the animation list. So firstly, this is kind of going back to how my other video about how to import correctly, right? So if you're lost, go watch my previous video. But if you go over to animation list, add an M file. Let's see how our other thing is probably still exporting. So anyway, I saved my animations under elements, content, Half-Life VR add-ons, film, elements. yada, yada. Okay. So for some reason, iClone crashes when it's successful. Really weird, but whatever. So we got our gold brass demo here. We're going to go ahead, and this is just an FBX file, directly exported from iClone, okay? Very simple. Very, very, very stupid simple, okay? So we are going to import that, and just wait a second. And the important thing is to not run this through Blender at all. And you actually got to name it. So we'll just name this gold brass demo like we did earlier. And then we need to compile that. Just make sure you name it. And I really do like naming my files like the scene name, the character, and then the first 3 words that they say, or like the 3 big words that they say. That way I can just always like remember exactly which shot. And it's very helpful to do a storyboard when you do this. That way you're not, yeah. So, yeah, you might need to click on a different animation, click off it, and then go back, because otherwise it won't be there. So now we have all of our keyframes here. And now we got our character. So the beginning was a little bit wacky because I had to hit record over and over. But here, okay, so I wanted to jump in here real quick. I forgot something that was pretty important. When you import the animation, if you watch my last video, you'll probably know about this, but your import scale is going to be different. So in order, like the iClone scale to Source 2 scale, I believe is about 35. It might be a little more, a little less, but I found 35 works for me. So your import scale on your DMX character, that guy is going to need to be probably 35, right? And what that's going to do is when you import that animation, it's going to come out like a skeleton or all bundled up, like your body's going to be all mangled and stuff. So you'll actually want to add something called the scale, command call scale and animations right there, right? So you add that, okay? And it's going to give you this little feature over here, down here on your outliner, right? And you'll want to put an asterisk right there for animation. So what that's going to do is it's going to call all animations and apply this to all animations. So just put an asterisk there. If you just want to do it on one animation, I think you just put the name right there. But we're going to do an asterisk, and then we're going to put the scale 0.35. And if you're having issues with this too, feel free to experiment, but just thought that I'd add that real quick too. But the great thing about this is that we got everything, we got all the data there, you know. We got our eyebrows, we got our lips and nose, and that's how easy it really can be. I think that iClone and Source 2 got together so well. I love this pipeline. So I just wanted to share real quick on how to import things like that, and just to show you a little bit about what I've been able to do here.
Be overlooked, but the severity of the situation, cannot be ignored.
So, you know, it's not like the best face capture you've ever seen, or even clean up to, but, you know, I think...
Overlooked.
And I think I did a little bit of hand animating here. But I think it's very helpful to learn how to... Oh, another important tip too, teeth. I think it's very important to learn how people talk and expression. And the main thing that I've learned to do, because mainly for my animation career, I've been using just helmets. I haven't been doing face capture. So this is all very new to me, is to learn how people talk and think about the eyebrows and nose and the cheeks a lot, right? Look at how people's faces are when you make characters in Character Creator. And then also, another huge thing is getting the materials right. That glint you see in his eyes here are super, super important. If you don't have that, the character looks dead inside. That glint, you know, characters' eyes, they're the window into the soul, right? So it's super important that you get the eyes right. And also when you import it, it's nice to have the highest quality textures. And my buddy did something with the skin that I've just been applying to my other characters now, like Gold Brass here. It's this extra skin detail. So you can zoom up a lot, and you got this like extra layer of detail, which is just really nice, especially if you wanted to do an extreme close-up shot on a character's face. But, you know, we just got just a great amount of roughness, I think, and I'm just really happy with it. We got like the hair, you know, that's another thing you can buy. And then we just have iClone 8 that came out recently, which is has wrinkles. And I don't actually have that here, but I'm not sure if that's going to work, and I can make a tutorial about that too. But another huge thing is that when you import these characters, by default, you're going to have teeth issues. And by that, I mean the teeth are going to be a little bit too scrunched up. So what I do, let's just say I just imported this, by the way. Oh, I have such bad ADHD, I forgot to even show you guys what I was trying to tell you for like 5 minutes. But anyway, when you import a fresh animation or sequence, which I show in just a moment here, you'll probably want to move the teeth slightly up. I just used the green arrow here to move the top teeth up, and then grab the base bottom teeth and then move that just a little bit down, because unless you really want your character to look like that, I didn't want him to look like that. When people talk, there's really not that much teeth showing. So there you go. Oh, let me teach you how to actually get that correctly imported too. Okay, so now we have our character over here. I want to import the demo that we just recorded. Go to import sequence, and then we're going to find the Gold Brass demo. Yeah. And then we're going to get, hopefully, or maybe I'll move my camera over here. So now we're going to see our guy. He's going to be doing all of our things.
But the severity cannot be ignored. Not of the situation cannot be ignored.
Yeah, and so at this point, what I do is I just, with the audio that I already imported into Source 2, I just grab that and, well, I mean, it's already there, so I just sync up my motion capture here. And, you know, since I do multiple takes, I just press M on the beginning of every new take and just scrub around and just see what works the best, what's synced up the best, what is repairable. Because sometimes I do 20 takes and only one take is good, and it needs some repairing too. This process is again, very new to me, so I'm still learning on how to do it in an efficient way, and it is tricky. It's very tricky. There's a lot of things to consider.
The severity of the
really trying to make sure we are not an uncanny valley.
Cannot be ignored.
And I might actually add a filter on these characters to make them look a little bit more artistic, like cartoony, less human. But there's a lot of cool stuff you can do here once you get the animation imported. You can just grab a certain area right here, and if we want to make him squint, we got all the keyframes and stuff. And another big thing that I learned is don't rely on the blinking. Just go ahead and make your own blinking for your guy, because it's just not going to look super great. For example, the blinking that I think you can change it in iClone, but the blinking right here is just not very I don't know. It looks bad. So we want to just clear that entirely. And then I found it very helpful to just keyframe
the severity.
You know? Well, we're not doing it in the right area,
but the severity.
So that's one of the big foundations I've learned. Oh, no. His eye's twitching now over here.
Situation.
It's got a lazy eye there for a second. Yeah, just make sure you have good recording data, and don't use this kind of setup. You need an actual head cam, right? With good lighting too. That's important. So yeah, do your own blinking. But anyways, guys, I think that's just pretty much about everything I wanted to cover here. Hopefully that was easy to understand. You know, we just link up the iPhone. There's a lot of errors you can have with this thing. Just make sure you're connected to the same Wi-Fi. Make sure you grab the code for Xsens on the iClone Xsens Motion Live and bring that over. Watch this video a couple times if you got confused about something, and best of luck. Let me know if you got questions, if you're attempting to do all this. It is very expensive too, mind you, but it's worth it because you can tell your own stories, and you really don't need a whole lot of animation experience. Like, I mean, we already got this character here. I mean, you saw earlier I was walking around. I mean, it's great. If you want to tell animated stories and you don't know how to do animation, as long as you have the money to buy this stuff, you can do it. So it's honestly super fun. Stupidly fun. And as you can see here, we got all these characters being motion capture. Given it did take a while to learn this and figure out how to get it right, and you know, so then we just get some good lighting, source 2 lighting in here.
No one expected you to.
And so the reason why this scene's actually so dark for me, and maybe you might want to do the same thing too, is that it's actually an old film technique. CGI used to look better in the dark back in the 90s, 80s and stuff. So a lot of like Jurassic Park, a lot of movies that had, you know, maybe rough CGI had to actually shot the CGI in the dark, or, you know, whatever, made it in the dark because it just looks better. You know, it's really, really hard to get good CGI in daylight. So what I'm doing here, why I'm learning this, is putting these characters in the dark for the most part, so that the viewers' eyes kind of, they're just kind of filling in the blanks, and they see this as being more better than it actually is. So a little trade secret there. Don't tell anyone. But yeah, hopefully that works. And anyways, guys, I just wanted to share all that, and I'm super excited for this film. If you want to learn more, go visit my channel, Halo Follower. I've been making vidocs, and hopefully we'll be done with this by the end of 2023. Hopefully by fall, actually. But I'll catch you guys in the next one soon. Peace.